Okay, good afternoon, good morning, whatever it is for you there. We're getting closer to the end of the packet. We're in Unit 7, Lesson 5, Writing Expressions, and this is going to take some time because there's a lot of vocabulary here. So stay with me here. We're going to kind of buzz through this and kind of keep rolling with it, all right? Okay, so review the different ways the mathematical operations can be stated. List as many synonyms as you think of in the column below. Synonyms, same, right? All right. So when I think of adding, and we're not going to put them all down because there's more than we can put, but more than, I'm thinking of a sum, gain. These are all telling me to add, right? Total, in all, combine, okay, and etc. there. How about subtraction? How about subtraction? Um, Difference. That's the answer to a subtraction problem. Right? Difference, loss, fewer. Those are all things that tell us to subtract, decrease by, right? Okay, and so on. Okay. How do we know when to multiply? Well, certainly if they want a product, right, we have to know to multiply. They tell us to times. If they tell us to double, we can multiply, or twice. And another word would be of, that word. All right. If I want 3/5 of 5, of is telling us to multiply. Division. The answer is a quotient. Right? It's a quotient. I want to split it. I want half. All right. If it just simply says divided by, right? We are going to use division. And then the key word here for equals is. All right. Or I guess you could put same. That's not as powerful as is. So those are just some key vocabulary terms that we're looking at there to tell us what operation to do when we write expressions. And again, when we're writing an expression, generally we're just writing it out. We're not solving it, at least not yet. Okay. Verbal statements can be translated to algebraic expressions. It is like deciphering a secret message or translating from one language, right, to another. So, an expression is a mathematical phrase that contains, all right, well, it's going to contain numbers, right? It's going to contain variables and operations. I hope I don't run out of time here. Okay. So, it does not contain an equal sign. It doesn't. An expression, we can't solve for it unless they give us a value. So look at this expression here, right? 4d minus 9. So we're going to identify some of these things here, okay? We've talked in math, at least in my period one, we've talked about this number before a variable, and that's a letter D, and that's called a coefficient, Coefficient, coefficient. That D, we call that a variable, right? The number 9 is unique, all right? Any number is called a constant. It can't change. It won't waver unless we do an operation sign to it. And go ahead and put that word there, operation. Okay? So the whole thing is called an expression. This is the coefficient. That's the variable. That's the operational sign. That could be subtraction, addition, division, multiplication. And a constant's just a number, right? It won't change unless we do that operation to it. Okay? This, ideally, I'm going to circle this. This also has a name right here. Just wanted to clarify that. That's called the term. Okay? So just understand that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to be writing expressions, all right? And they start pretty easy, and then they can get a little bit more difficult. Let me make sure that I'm okay with that. Yep, we're in good shape. Okay, 8 more than a number. Okay, now remember, addition and multiplication are commutative, but division and subtraction aren't. So really getting the idea of writing these correctly. If we're going to add 8 to a number, it didn't say what letter, so I just used n. 8 more than a number. The difference between a number and 5, difference tells me to subtract. The difference between a number and 5 can't be 5 minus n, it has to be n minus 5. 19 added to a number. Okay. All right. So the number plus 19, I'm going to add 19 to the number. So just because 19 is written first doesn't mean it comes first. But it's, I understand it. It's addition. So you'll say, hey, it's commutative. And you're right to an extent. Okay. All right. So let's continue writing some more expressions. 6 less than n. Now be careful. And let me make sure my things are right here. There we go. 6 less than n. 6 less than n. That is not commutative. The difference of 10 and q. The difference tells us to subtract of 10 and q. 19 added to the letter J. So J plus 19. 19 added to that. 14 increased by B. Here's 14. I'm going to increase that by B. Okay. So these words are what we started with, adding, difference, less than. Those are all things that we talked about. K less 7. K less 7. So here's K. Less 7 is that. 12 less than P. Here's P. 12 less than P is there. The sum tells me to add, of G and 11. That's pretty easy. Sum of G and 11. 1 decreased by 3. Oh, I'm sorry, that's a T. Sorry about that. How about that? T decreased by 3. Okay, and look how I wrote my T there. All right, multiplication is written, right, side by side with the coefficient in the front of the variable. Okay? So the number always comes before the letter with multiplication. The product of 9 and n is just written 9n. Q times 12 is written as 12q, not q dot 12. That's the correct way to write that. Twice a number n. To double a number, we multiply it by 2. 16 multiplied by j. 16j. Okay? So we don't want n9 or q. We want it written with the coefficient first. With division, all right, you must determine which term is the divisor, all right, and which term is the dividend. Okay? That's important because a division isn't, it's not going to bring you up just a tab. So we have k divided by 10. So k divided by 10 is written that way. Who is it, Veronica? Come on in. I'm just finishing up a video here. The quotient of x and 6. The quotient tells me x divided by 6. Okay. 9 divided by c. Okay, so 9 could be written this way, divided by c. That's also division, right? And then the quotient of 4 and q. Okay, the quotient of 4 and q. I could write it that way. So both of these mean division, when I write it in a fraction and so on. Okay, I'm going to have to hustle here because I'm running out of time. All right, so now write an expression or an equation. So an equation tells me I'm going to have an equal sign. Close that door, please. Okay. All right. 4 times W is 19. Is equal, right? So 4W is 18. Now we can solve for that. It's an equation. N divided by 7. So I could write this as N divided by 7 or N divided by 7. The next one is 1/3 the sum of 11 and P. 1/3 the sum. So this is a multiple step one. 1/3 the sum. So 1/3 the sum of tells me to multiply. 1/3 the sum of 11 and P. Adding these two and taking a third of it. 14 is half of G. Okay, is equals, right? So 14 is half of G, right? And you could write that with division as well. 14 is if you have G, divided by 2, that also works. You can find half of a number through multiplication or division. 9R is 45. The difference between 5 and B, difference tells us to subtract. The quotient of S and 8, quotient division. The quotient of S and 8, I could write it that way. The quotient of M and 5 plus 9. Okay, so the quotient of M and 5 plus 9. That's a way to write it, or I could write it that way. So I apologize about hustling through there, but I was running out of time. I have folks coming in for class. All right, guys, thanks. Go to the homework.